Hi.
That was
How's
pretty
it?
smooth.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes, all good.
Did you get a haircut since yesterday?
I did this
Oh my
morning.
God. Well, I noticed. So everyone, this is Matt Voice. He's actually our newest artist over here at H Plus Creative. I didn't really give a proper intro, but he's an amazing kinetic type artist. I see some of his work in the background there. Has been at it forever. And Matt, I know you're in England. Are you in London?
No, I'm in Leeds, so it's like 2.5, 3 hours north of London.
Okay, amazing. And it's late for Matt. It's afternoon for us in LA. So thank you everyone for joining us. I'm super excited to dive in. I'm Hannah Stouffer, the founder over here at H Plus Creative. And Matt Voice is one of our incredible artists. Matt, do you remember like the moment when you were like, oh my God, that's it. I'm an animator. I'm going to work with type. Like, this is it. This is perfect.
No, I literally fell into it. I used to hate animation. I left university a bit lost, and I tried a little bit of motion and After Effects and trying to make things move, and I just hated it. I just didn't like opening the programs. I didn't like
Well,
animating. Um, yeah. So then it was only when kind of lockdown came here in the UK that I started to, I guess, kind of experiment with sort of moving type and letters, and I kind of had like an eye for making letters feel like characters. So um, it just kind of worked. Something just kind of clicked. It was like the perfect mashup of like passions of things that I liked making and like designing, and when I could bring those to life, it was just like I'm onto something here. This could be good.
yeah, I
It
mean,
was.
you're something that's funny. So it was like a pandemic baby, a pandemic project that you really discovered your love for it. And then what were
Yeah.
you doing prior to the kinetic type that a lot of people know you for now? Was it more design based?
Yeah, so I kind of had different agency jobs, and every time I moved from a different agency to the very last one I was at Analog in Leeds, I was learning more motion and introducing more of motion sort of into my work and into the agency's work. So it was kind of like a nice sort of partnership really when I was working at places. And then yeah, it just kind of, I guess it kind of like snowballed, and I always had like a massive passion just for illustrating. Like I would always sort of design and illustrate before I knew motion. So um, I would basically create like prints like these behind me that I would like to wall mount, or things that I would like to sell. Um, and I got quite good at sort of illustrating type because I used to illustrate characters, and I had those sort of illustration skills in my sort of remit. So then when motion came into sort of play, it was like, you know, this new spark of being able to bring my own work to life really. Um, but yeah, it was general graphic design, like logo designs, branding, illustration, less motion. So yeah, it was like sampling all these different areas of designing and then finding that one little niche that sort of worked for me.
Amazing. So you were in-house at agencies before?
Yeah, so I started off at a college in the UK, doing like prospectuses and flyer designs and things like that for the courses, and then knew that I wanted to progress into an agency because I wanted to sort of use my skills on different brands and try different things, and not be limited to sort of one brand. So then I went through like a few different agencies until I sort of started to find my feet and my confidence as like an independent designer in a way.
Sure. Yeah, thank you. Again, hello everyone. Thanks for joining us. We're with Matt Voice here, an artist in Leeds. And at the end of this Q&A with him, we're going to do a little live questions from you guys. If you want to insert a question at the bottom with the little question mark blurb button, you're welcome to do so at any point during the convo. And then at the end, we'll be going through a bunch of those. So thanks for everyone for joining us. So how do you feel about being full-time freelance versus kind of what you had before with the agency stuff before pandemic? What do you recommend? What do you like?
Yeah, I'll start with the sort of what I see as like the negative part is I miss sort of like the studio life, like being
Right.
next to people and throwing designs around between people and like people next to you and having a good laugh kind of thing, and doing less virtual and digital stuff. But then the whole side of like freedom and being able to sort of work on what I want to and for who I want to, I feel like very fortunate. But I do know that to sort of land in the position that I'm in now, it's taken like a hell of a lot of work. It's not just been like a flick of a switch. It's taken like years of work and years of practice and finding what I actually like doing and what I can profitize off, basically. And you
Yeah.
know, I guess to find something that doesn't feel like a job is like a dream come true, really.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, when you can use your, your passion of being an artist or an illustrator, a designer, an animator, or whatever it is, and make money off of it, even if it's for commercial work or,
Mm.
branding work or whatever, I think that that's really cracking the code and, kind of the life hack there. So that's, I mean, I'm a huge advocate for it. Of course, that's really all I've ever done.
Yeah,
And you said something about missing the studio life and missing, being in, a social setting. And that's like the constant struggle for
yeah,
me. And we have our plants and we have our books and we have our art and
yeah. That's
they
about it.
up and
That's about it.
I
The,
guess.
the for me, like the positives outweigh the negatives massively.
Yep.
It's just that one small thing, and I'm a bit of a social recluse. I'm very introverted normally in person, so like you might not think that I would miss that kind of thing, but in reality, after a few years, you kind of start to do miss it.
Yeah.
But then, the benefits of being able to kind of work when I want to work is the sort of the driving force, really, and like it's that having that freedom to know like I don't have to work tomorrow if I don't need to or I don't want to. I can take
Yeah.
time, I can refresh. Yeah, so the benefits are just staggering, basically.
I'm with you. I'm with you for sure. So what would you advise people that are just trying to get into doing what you're doing or trying to be a full-time artist? What do you feel like benefited you or was worthwhile when you were kind of taking that dive? And I know it was a weird time because it was during the pandemic, but
Yeah.
were you just kind of working on stuff for yourself? Were you using social media? Were you doing, not caring what the public thought? Were you, what was kind of like your focus that you felt like worked when you were starting to get yourself out there?
Yeah, I kind of all of those things really. I mean, when I kind of started out using Instagram, especially kind of posting my design work, it was very different to where it was now. It was less like reels. Reels didn't exist when I was using it. It was like 1 by 1 squares, and it was pretty simple times. Um, but it was definitely like investing the time in myself to practice and to as soon as I sort of cottoned on to something that I felt like it just connected with me. It didn't feel like it was like a chore or like it was really difficult to sort of to work on. It felt really natural and it just flowed. As soon as I kind of felt that feeling, designing type and especially making it move, I just kind of ran with it. But that only came from trying all the different sides of design, like through like agency life. I tried
Yeah.
web design, I tried branding, I tried illustration, which I liked, and then type design I've always sort of liked, and it was pretty easy to do because you could just add a few effects and type could look pretty cool. So it was just like practicing and finding that sort of that key area that I really enjoyed. And then obviously as soon as I sort of decided like this is quite easy to sort of work on and it feels natural and I enjoy it, then I just kept going with it. So I guess if you find something that sort of really connects with you, just keep creating. And I know like the whole sort of getting likes on Instagram and views is quite a big thing at the minute. And for me, in like the last year, it's been quite sort of detrimental, and I've had sort of negative impacts and started just creating stuff for Instagram just so it get viewed.
Yeah.
And I still do make a few reels just so it sort of keeps it in my feed and keeps me sort of current. Um, but when I was sort of starting out, I didn't care about likes. I was just posting stuff on Instagram to make people feel happy because it was COVID. It was a bit of a crappy time, and if I thought if I could just put something on the grid or on Instagram that would make someone feel like happy or emote some sort of emotion just from type, then it was kind of worth it. So I'm trying to sort of get back to those kind of roots and think less about like algorithms and get sort of bogged down with likes, which is I know it's easy when you kind of have like a big following, but you still get hit by the algorithm and it can still mentally mess you up. So I'm just trying to sort of I almost find my feet again with sort of posting out on social media and deciding what's healthy for me.
Yeah, no, I know. And it's, I mean, all of it is finding a balance. Like social media is not the end all. I do think it's important to, you know, pay attention to it and stay up on it. But the pressure of like posting time and posting for likes and, you know, especially as an
Mm.
artist, just exhausting. It's like
Yeah,
training. And yeah, I really liked the part where you said just making art to make people happy. You know, you do.
yeah,
Love I love a bunch of, you know, your positive affirmations and your positive kind of words and that fun stuff that you do. And actually, this is maybe part of your promotional process, maybe intentional, unintentional, but I found your stickers, your little gift stickers, if
mm.
someone's searching, and I'm totally not surprised, but yeah, that made my day alone just to be like, oh,
Yeah.
there's Matt, and we'll throw some of these little fun, positive things on there too.
Yeah, those stickers are kind of how I got started, really. I
Oh,
found that sort of that gap in the market for doing I mean, people were doing animated stickers with typography for ages. They were doing kind of like word art style ones, like old Microsoft style ones. There was tons out there, but when I sort of hit it, no one was kind of animating. People were animating type, but no one was animating it like myself. And then
yeah.
no one was using that style to then be to use them as stickers. So um, it was like finding that little gap. I mean, I was very lucky to find the gap at the time because now it's sort of becoming more saturated because it's just such like a grown area, really.
Yeah, and I'm gonna give everyone a little hint here that you can make your own stickers for Instagram. Get a Giphy account, upload your stickers. I mean, they have to be tiny, but the hashtags that you use are what you search for in the little Instagram GIFs. So there's some for H plus, HPLUS, there's some for Matt Voice. You can search his name, add him to your stories, but yeah, it's just a fun alternative to, you know, getting your work out there, getting it used, getting it seen. Um,
Definitely.
and so now is the majority of the work that you do commercial work? Do you do work for yourself still? You know, do you do dailies? What's your kind of balance and day?
Mm. Yeah, so I've definitely gone from doing dailies, from always putting time aside to really focus on doing a bit of sort of personal development, to now doing much more commercial work and using any downtime I have to then work on my own stuff. And I guess because I've kind of like practiced into the point of where I am designing and how I sort of create in my process in illustrating and sort of animating type, um, I'm finding that I need less time for personal development, which is great. It's more like trying to elevate what I do for commercial work and trying to pick up these kind of dream projects that for me are more important than putting sort of some of my own personal stuff out on there. Which is weird because I've always been a massive advocate for sort of doing passion projects, and it's how I sort of got started. And it doesn't mean that I'm going to stop doing them. I'm just kind of sort of pulling it back to then really focus on my, I guess my career, really, and just to really find to keep sort of pushing the niche that I'm in, and you know, see if I can make more of what it is, really.
Yeah, totally. I'm gonna take a sip of water and shout out Basel, Miami at my Miami.
That is a great mug.
It's so awkward to be out of, but it's so funny. Um, so what have been your dream projects? What have been some of like the funnest ones you've done? What are some that you would like love to manifest, you know, out there in the future? What has been and what do you want to do? Oh my God, did we freeze? Matt, did
Oh,
you?
sorry, it's crashed a little bit. There we go. So the first kind of dream project I had was doing animated stickers for Disney Plus, which was huge because I went from doing like branding for like friends and sort of family to getting this sort of this massive brief, this huge
Yeah,
motion gig. And that was a dream come true because it was animating characters from my childhood. It was animating like old TV shows that were like really special to me because I watched them growing up on the Disney Channel. So that still remains as like an absolute dream job.
shout out
And
Disney.
then yeah, it was so cool.
Like pre Disney Plus.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
like nostalgia series. So from like the late 90s, literally when I was like a child. So it was perfect.
yeah.
Um, that was a dream job. And then two other ones are I did a gig with First Love Machine in Buenos Aires, which was for ESPN.
Cool.
So every year they do like this campaign to advertise their app, and it was like being part of like a huge team of like, I don't know, 20 plus people, of designers, animators, 3D designers, producers, all coming together to make this like 30-40 second spot of just like mixed media madness. Some of those projects are like my favorites because you don't always get to see the end result until it's released. So you can sort of get asked to do certain scenes and certain type sequences, and you get a rough idea of the beginning, the after, and sort of their neighboring scenes, but then you don't actually see the final thing until it's been released, like it's on YouTube. So that was a massive hit for me because it was great team effort, a lovely team to work with, and it's such a nice project to sort of reflect on, and yeah, it's a fun one. So that was huge. And then the next one, the last one, good project. I mean, I've had lots of good projects, but a dream project was for the Pepsi design team, and that was at the start of this year. So I helped them create like an animated intro and sort of preview of this new typeface to run alongside the rebrand, which is this huge rollout they've done, which has sort of been shared here and there and everywhere. So it was animating like a really custom typeface to be something like really cool, and it was just such a big deal. Like I sort of kind of tried to brush it off like it wasn't like a big deal inside my head, but in reality it was like just such a huge cool project. And then the beauty of that is like a few sort of months and weeks after, I've been able to sort of jump on some more work for them, which I have to wait to talk about, and I'm going to have to wait until probably late next year to show. But it's exciting, and it's like a really fun sort of type thing. So they're like three pretty cool jobs, I must say. And then heading into the future, I want to keep kind of working with, to be honest, I don't care who the brand is. I don't care if it's small or large, but I want to keep sort of having the ability and getting the sort of the opportunity to elevate my type animations and to make them sort of just feel really unique, and find a sort of keep finding that sort of gap in the market where they can make an impact for any brand. But if I had to sort of choose a dream, it would be to sort of do type or some sort of motion work for a feature film or like a TV show. So to see my name in like a rolling credits sequence at the end of a show or a TV film, cinema film, would just be like, that'd be top. That
Yeah.
would be top.
Love that. I love that. I have a couple questions that I just thought of, and I saw a bunch of questions rolling up from the feed. So if you have a question, add it to the little button with the question mark down there, and we'll get to it at the end. We're going to just swing this dialogue, and then we'll roll into kind of watcher questions. So happy to answer those at the end from Matt. Yeah, TV and film and movies and credits and headers. What are the kind of things that you like to watch? Like, what would be a dream watch? Are you watching reality? Are you doing like dramas and action? Are you a rom-com guy?
Yeah, I'm kind of into a lot of different things. Like I watch a lot of TV shows, like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is a
Great.
massive hit for me. The American Office, but then I also like quite a wide spectrum of films. Like having grown up with like Ghostbusters and Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, like they were like my films
Oh,
growing up as a kid. Um, I'm really into like sort of like the sci-fi, the fantasy world, but then I love stuff like Lord of the Rings, like Harry Potter, like thrillers, murder, like Poirot, the Poirot films that have come out recently. They're quite cool. Like I find such a wide spectrum of films. I think that's because I sometimes when I'm working, if I'm sort of fed up of listening to like my Spotify repeat playlist, I'll whack like a TV show or a film on my phone, put it next to my computer, and just work and have it in the background. So it's kind of always there, like beating away. But I kind of love everything. I really do.
yeah. I could see
Yeah.
your work like great for comedies, like It's Always Sunny.
Mhm.
If Ghostbusters 4 or 5 or whatever we're at comes out,
Yeah, that'd be cool.
fun, nostalgic. Uh,
Yeah.
what is your favorite typeface fonts? What are your fonts? What are your go-to,
Uh,
your favorite?
I, a, a year and a half, 2 years ago, it was a font called Obviously,
Mm,
because it's a variable font, so you can kind of stretch it, and it goes wide, it goes tall, it goes condensed, it goes sort of extended.
so say that,
Um,
what is it called?
Obviously, and it's on Adobe fonts, so it's kind of like included in the package. But I've kind of started to delve more into like really sort of unique type foundries, like the central type, new form type.
Yep.
There's these sort of foundries that are really sort of pushing the boundaries of like what you can do with like a nice typeface. And as soon as you know how to animate a type, like a piece of lettering or a typeface, you see a font on screen and you just instantly think, oh my god, that could literally move like this and this.
Yeah.
So it kind of like draws you in, and you just kind of want to buy a single license and have a play, or buy like a trial license or whatever it is, and just go for it. But yeah, I'm quite into Zonk at the minute from New Form, or maybe from Central Type. I think it's from
Oh,
Central Type Zonk, but
cool.
it's cool, it's chunky, it's fun, it's quite fun to play with.
Yeah, shout out the Type Foundries for keeping it going.
Hmm.
I love seeing how unique like the fonts roll out, and trends in fonts and trends in type. It's kind of universal, but it's always really interesting to see. And I'm sure you follow and pay attention to that too. Have you ever made your own typeface or font, or is that something that you would want to do?
Yeah, I've made one for a project which I can't kind of sort of speak about until I get the go ahead. But yeah, I've made my own sort of typeface. It was a quite simple one. It was just all uppercase, quite
Cool.
thin hand drawn, very stylized to the theme that it represents. But yeah, it was a fun process. And obviously, like there's all these programs and apps you can get now that make typeface making like so easy. Like the flick of a switch, you can just select your characters, select what they represent, and you're golden. So it's fun, and I would like to do more of it. And I guess to be kind of commissioned to make a custom typeface and then to animate it is like a huge goal. So
Yeah.
I'll just add that to the bucket list for now, for future years.
See funny little spot illustrations in there too, like with
Yeah, yeah, all
uh,
these glyphs. Yeah, you got to make it fun.
yeah, I could see that being a really fun part of a custom font that you do. And I know a lot of people are asking this and they're dying to learn about your process and kind of the beginning to end and software and that whole thing. I know that there was questions popping up, so let's just get that over. Let's talk about your process. How do you start and how do you add motion?
So if I'm kind of doing like a personal piece, like some of these behind me, I'll quite literally just I use Illustrator from Adobe and After Effects mainly. So I'll literally just type out a typeface on screen. I think, because it sounds weird, but I think because I've practiced so much and I've used so many of my own styles on repeat, and I've sort of had all these experiences now with these great brands and personal projects, that like I will just type out a typeface or a word even, and then I kind of just chuck it into After Effects and think about how it's going to move. I very rarely, unless it's commercial work, plan how it's going to move. If it's a personal piece, I will literally, yeah, just type it out on screen. So it's all shape layers and it's all customizable and movable, and then sling it into After Effects and just start playing with it and just see what can happen and what can make it move and what it can react to. And I guess a lot of the time, the meaning of the word or what it sort of represents is a big driving force into how it's going to animate or how it's going to move. So that always helps. Always helps kind of sort of indicate its personality in a way, because I like to give type personality. And then when it's commercial work, obviously it's much more planned. Sometimes it's like storyboards, which most of the time I kind of do like 3-frame storyboards. So it's like a start frame, a middle frame, and an end frame. So it gives like a really clear indication of its most animated section or its most animated frame, and then how it starts off as like a simple piece of type or a word, and then how it finishes. And then I also sort of add motion notes if it's commercial work, so people can sort of get a rough idea of how it's going to move. Because I think through like my years of like going through agencies, and especially the last agency I worked for, we were kind of always sort of taught to sort of experiment and just spend a few days making stuff, which was like an amazing place to be in for a sort of like a younger designer, just to be able to sort of run with a project and make some crazy stuff and see what comes out at the end of like 2 or 3 days of exploratory time. So that sort of leads the rest of my process, that like unless it's really severely planned and needs to have like a really clear direction, I like to sort of chuck my type, my outline shapes or whatever it is, letterforms into After Effects, and then spend the time experimenting. So I might start with like a simple movement, a simple transition, and then I kind of like build on that. So I'll keep animating different sort of movements and sort of phases of how it can live and sort of breathe and have a personality. And then you kind of get like offshoots of that experimentation. So you might start really simple and then you go down one route, then you go down another route, and then you can combine. And that's kind of where I end up with just like an accumulation of like random type experiments for clients, so that they have loads of choice and loads of selections to look at, and then you end up with something quite unique, really, because it's just like a mind meld of random type experiments. So
Yeah.
it's a muddled process, but I mean, it works for me, and it has done for the last few years.
You said something really fun about giving type a personality, which is so obvious now that I hear you say it. But I love that part of your work, that it does feel like it has personality, and I could put adjectives or verbs or whatever it is to it. But what would you say your top 3 or 5 biggest personalities are of your type that you tend to? I mean, I know positivity, that's, that kind of stuff, but what are the personalities of the type that you want to put out?
So there's kind of like a handful. I like to do quite like a subtle, smooth sort of personality that's quite relaxed. It's quite laid back. It has movement, but its character is much more like subtle and sort of almost less distinctive. It might be just like a little subtle piece of movement that's like it brings it to life in like a really sort of simplistic way. I like to do stuff that is unexpected. So it could be you could have like a static word, just a plain word on the screen, but then as soon as like a cursor runs over it, or it's given some attention, it explodes into like personality and character, and it's got all these offshoots of illustrations and textures and this, that, and the other. So they're like a few key ones. And then I've always been in love with like a sort of a seamless loop. So making type move and live and have this sort of endless personality and character, but then for the watcher or the viewer not to be able to know where the loop started or ends. So it feels smooth and it just runs on infinity. So it's a really nice sort of infinity loop, really. So I kind of like that as well. It's quite fun and unique.
But I would say like excited or excitable, relaxed. I like
Yeah.
um, a lot of like activity and adventure, and I love the bouncy stuff. I love, yeah, it's funny also working with the word, where you work with like Friday, and that's like an excited one, or
Yeah.
you kind of define the personality of the word that you're doing too, that's a fun play.
Yeah, and obviously there's just so many words out there, and you don't know how it's going to react until you kind of type it out on screen, and you start to think about this is why it moves this way, or this is why it has this personality or character. So it's kind of like there's so many like possibilities out there, like to play with. It's just like an endless library of design in a way. It's weird.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I love words. Like I love the way they look, some look awkward, some look, really fluid, like as a logo or just a single word. Words have always been a big good thing. So we're ending 2024, big year, big new me, new you, new year next year. Is there anything that you're wrapping up the year and excited about? I don't know, closing out. I know that's kind of a broad question, I guess. Is there anything that you're excited on doing in the new year? Do you have, creative goals or software goals or things that you want to try in the new year? Things that, I don't know. It was kind of a weird year for everyone, and it's always a weird. This year was kind of weird, so let's start with something new and fresh for 2024.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I have like on my phone, I have like a list of things that I want to try. Like I have an idea to kind of play with creating like a 24 frame animation, but then sketching out each frame and then laying them over and seeing how it moves. Like I want to sort of get back to really customizing my type and trying to do things less digitally and give them a bit, just that extra hint of like sort of character and personality. Because I mean, you can use so many effects like nowadays to make things feel like they're frame by frame, or make them feel like they're claymation, they're sketched, they're like printed, you know, scanned, whatever it is. So I kind of want to go back to that and go a bit more analog in a way, and just see what I can make with almost not having to just rely on sort of digital technology. And I guess although it makes things a lot quicker, it's almost like a test of seeing if I could make something by hand, and then if I can then replicate that in digital form, like through the programs, through the effects, then you never know where it's going to lead to, or what project it might be sort of applicable for. So I really want to kind of sort of get back to, I'd love to get back to sort of illustrating more type instead of typing out a typeface and customizing it. So that's a big thing for me.
I love that. I mean, personally, my background is in more kind of traditional, you know, hand-drawn analog stuff, and I have a huge affinity for that, and like for the craft. You know, software is great, all that. It does make it easier. Robots are going to be our friends, but are our friends. But yeah, I really love kind of stepping back to the craft, like the illustration, the hand-drawn stuff. I mean, it's tedious, but the frame by frame. You know, your work, like stepping back and back even further, could be so cool for like physical sculptures and, you know, like, I don't know, like more fine art based stuff too. And I mean, you're an artist, so it would be. But
yeah, definitely.
When you were a kid, did you look up to artists? Did you have like, you know, were you an art kid? Were you like a car kid? Were you into design when you were little? Does this path feel like something that you know, was intentional?
Yeah, I mean, it never was fully intentional. It just sort of manifested its way in I don't know, a very sort of I don't know, kind of like a different way that I never expected. Like I never thought I would be a freelance animator. Like my dad used to sort of do a lot of sort of sketching and illustrating and kind of like painting of like figures and all these kind of sort of different medias. So I was kind of around that quite a lot as a kid. And then although weirdly, people are going to kill me for this, I've never watched Akira. I know of Akira from like such a young age, I think because my dad watched it when I was young. But I've never actually watched it. I know the motorbike, I know sort of the art style, but there's like these sort of aspects of my childhood that sort of resonate with me. And I remember like I was always into like The Simpsons, like the very early stuff that when it was sort of just getting going. And then when Matt Groening did Futurama, I was obsessed with Futurama. Like I watched that over and over and over. So there's like all these sort of like references of old TV shows, and I mean, when I was a kid, I used to go to bed watching a DVD on. When I eventually got a TV in my bedroom, I'd watch like a film. I'd fall asleep watching the film, and it'd be the same every single night. I would go to sleep watching movement and watching animation. So although I never set out to be like an animator, I feel like it was probably coming just because it was something that I subconsciously loved and I've always been into. So it was there. It was just working its way to the front of my brain to sort of manifest itself into a career in a way. Weird.
Totally. I mean, I kind of think it's the best. And now you're a freelance animator and you have all of your time and you're able to travel. Have you found balance in your schedule? Have you found, you know, breaks and time for travel? And I hope you take full advantage of that. But yeah, what's your like normal day to day, and how often do you put it all aside? I think that that's all important.
Yeah, I'm not great with sort of balancing. I guess because I work from home, sometimes it's hard to sort of separate the work from the home life, and especially because sometimes if I sort of get an email in the evening, because you know, some of my great projects come from the US, and sometimes, especially in the past, I could have got an email in the evening, and it's so tempting to sort of start working on it straight away and to lose that disconnect. Or
Yeah.
even if I get feedback for a project here in the UK and I know what it is I need to do tomorrow, but I could quite easily just be like, oh, just open a laptop on the sofa and just start working, and then before I know it, it's like 12, 1 p.m. So I'm still finding my feet balancing that sort of aspect of my life and trying to say yes to things and no to things and give myself a break before I well and truly burn out, which hopefully is not on the horizon. But I've had aspects of it in the sort of the last year. I'm getting there with that, so that's good. And then yeah, I have like he's kind of like a Vizsla Doberman. He's down here on the floor next to me. So he's quite a high energy dog and he needs a lot of exercise. So every day I get out for like at least an hour and a half, 2 hours for like a 4 to 6 mile walk. So I get like a really nice disconnect from the computer to reflect, to try and stay off my phone, just put up Instagram stories of my dog, which people get fed up of because it's all like on show and I'm not showing new work. So yeah, there's kind of like that side of it. And then, yeah, I'm getting much better at not taking my laptop away on holiday, which has happened in the past, much to my wife's hatred, but it's because projects have been there and they've clashed with sort of holiday dates. So I've got much better at that because for sanity and for mental well-being, you can't just like work all the time. Like it's a blessing and a curse because you find something you love doing and then you almost can't stop doing it even when you get the downtime. So it's like stepping back, and after a few years you start to realize that right, it's not the most important thing in your life. Like friends, family, and downtime is just as important.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I mean, it's a hard thing to find that balance, but when it's up to you, you got to do it. And it's always kind of a confronting question, talking about balance and how,
exactly.
now that I know that about you, I'm not going to let you keep messaging me when it's so late for you.
It's just so easy. It's just it comes up on the iPhone. It's just like, yep, just reply to that. Like I'm quite progressive, so I'll if it's work based, I will reply straight away because it's there and it needs to be sorted. So I quite like to sort of get on it.
The beast. Well, thank you so much, Matt. We're gonna get into some fan, watcher, viewer questions right now. We have a pile of them sitting down here. If you guys want to add any questions down at the bottom with that little question mark blurb, that's probably the easiest way. You can put them in the feed. But I'm going to get into answering some of these and relaying them to Matt. Can you see me when I make the thing go up? Are we good?
I can still see you fine.
Oh. Yeah. Pink Panthers, Blue Pearl, had a couple. I've been playing around with art and AI, but don't know how to make money with it. What can I do to make money from home as a stay-at-home mom, but want to gain my independence? So working with art and AI, I don't know, Matt, do you have any advice on, this sounds like kind of a question on how to start a career in art, like what would be the first steps to becoming an artist that makes money from working at home?
Yeah, I mean, I've only sort of dipped into AI a little bit for past projects to sort of conceptualize, or if it's been like a specific need in like a brief. So I'm less sort of knowledgeable about the AI side, but like the sort of personal and sort of art kick side, like it's, for me, it was just like finding something that I really liked doing. And it's quite easy just to say like I just started sort of illustrating type, but if you can find something, if you can open your laptop or you design program and you have a thought about what you want to create, it feels natural. It doesn't feel like it's going to be really difficult, and it's something that you feel really positive about. Like I think you have to run with that feeling. And then I was always kind of under this sort of mantra of like spam people with your work until they sort of don't ignore you anymore. It was almost like getting so much of my work out there and my own personal style that people would start to be like, oh, this might work for this brand, this might work for this. So it was really about kind of like sharing everything and not being restricted by just showing the very best of your work. Like I was sort of starting to share more processes and sort of behind the scenes and designs that were not necessarily sort of selected for projects, but like still sharing them when I could, because it's important for people to see like the process and the sort of the scope of what you can do. So it was like not feeling judged by putting stuff out there because it didn't get viewed or liked. It was it all for me, all it had to be seen by was like by like one person, one art director or one sort of designer from a brand. So if you don't kind of like share something that you're kind of proud of or that you kind of like enjoy making, then you know, you're not you're just not really going to go kind of like grow as a designer. You just need sort of one person to see something that you've created out there, and it can spark something quite unique, really.
Yeah, no, I agree with all of that. And I feel like you sound like me in a lot of these kind of bigger picture things. It's like finding a medium or a software or something that feels comfortable, that you're drawn to, you know, find an outlet that feels natural. And I know that might sound weird, but you know, like if animating is feeling too forced or too difficult, I mean, start as an illustrator, you know, start as a designer, start as a painter,
Right.
you know, finding that and feeling what feels comfortable. And the self-promotion is huge. People,
Yeah.
show friends, show family, do social media, you know, make a website. It's just like that constant, what's it called? Self-promotion. Like, I can't remember what the word is, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Shameless self-promotion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
is good.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah, we're gonna, yeah, I think it's important.
Mhm.
Back to questions. Cecilia Barada. Do you animate with Procreate ever?
No, I mean, I've seen the Procreate Dreams stuff, and I've seen some of the stuff people are creating. I used to have an iPad. I think it was an iPad Pro. However, I stood on it on the stairs, and half of the screen went like this.
Uh,
So I stopped using it. I stopped illustrating, and I turned to more sort of digital, less hand-drawn techniques. So no, I don't use Procreate. I used it for a little while to sort of do static type. But I just found sort of the process that works for me quicker. Which isn't to say like don't use Procreate, like you can do some insane stuff on it now, especially now you can animate. It just didn't work for me, but it's an amazing program.
yeah,
That's
no,
for sure.
super user friendly, super convenient. You have an iPad and you don't want to mess with a bunch of other softwares. Procreate is definitely try out. Sorry, I'm going to butcher this name. Ashika Hoot is wondering, where do you get your sounds for your typeface animations? Do you have a sound source? Are you making sounds?
So I've got a couple of really old libraries. For life of me, I can't remember where I got them from because I've had them since I was in my first sort of design role. But then there are sort of different libraries you can go for. There's Artlist, which has tons of libraries, but it's subscription based. So you have to pay a couple of $100 maybe every 6 months or every year to sort of get it going. And there's also an After Effects plugin called Boombox from Mount MoGraph.
Oh,
So that loads into After Effects, and you can sort of download all these sound packs where you can find all these sound effects, drag them straight into After Effects, and just play. But I've always, if I've ever sort of added sound to my work, which I love doing, I've always animated first and then added sound afterwards. Because a lot of the kind of work that I do personally, I always stick to sort of like an even number, so like 4 seconds, 6 seconds, 8 or 12. There's most likely a looping beat that sort of matches with that, so it makes life easier for me to then find a random piece of music that lines up with my animation because it's got the same like flow or sort of tempo. But yeah, there's a few good sources.
yeah, that's smart. That's super smart. What else we got? I mean, the big question, the NFT question. Grump Studio, just wondering about his NFT project and how that experience was for him, and are there plans for it in the future? Did you do NFTs? How was that? What's going on?
Yeah, I did a few single pieces. And then I did a collaboration with Imoni, who's like a really cool sort of VFX artist. She does her own really nice stuff. We collaborated on a really cool piece. And then I sort of started getting into the realm of doing like single pieces, but they lived under the same sort of theme, and it was called Walking. So it was like kind of like that character there, moving, but it had
Love that.
every time it walked, it had different things come from the footsteps. for me, like I enjoyed that sort of 8 months or whatever it was for me personally that I was involved with it. It felt like kind of like a new sort of realm to play with and to sort of experiment with different pieces that were not necessarily type based. Because I tried type design and animation in NFTs, but for me it didn't quite work. So then I sort of turned to characters because characters were doing really well. And it was a really positive experience. But yeah, for me personally, it had its heyday. And I kind of moved on from it because it wasn't supporting me financially for a career, basically. Because I'd started to take it on probably a year after I went freelance. So because it wasn't sort of benefiting the time I was spending on it, I had to then go back to what I felt was more beneficial for me, which is client work and commercial work.
Yeah.
So it was good. I mean, I enjoyed it. I met some great people through it, but it just didn't, for me, it didn't work. For others, like I have a few friends in it that are doing great stuff, but not for me for type design. It just didn't work for me.
It was a wild ride, wasn't it? It was a really
Mhm.
wild ride
Yeah.
for a lot of people for a little while, for a long while, maybe
Yeah.
still is, but yeah, we'll
Yeah.
see
Yeah.
what happens with that. Nobody knows, but
No,
um,
exactly.
yeah, volatile and big and little, and who knows. Um, we got one more, and it's been
Mhm.
50 minutes. So everyone, this is your last chance. If you want to throw a question down below for Matt, throw a question in the little question mark button, and we'll try and get to it. But I'm not going to take up too much more of your time. So we're going to work on closing this out. We got a question from Yu Wan that says, I'm curious, what is your one classic workday look like? When you get up, how do you do for your mood settings before you start working, etc.? So I guess the question is, like, how do you prepare yourself for your day? Are there, are you a coffee guy? Do you go for a walk in the morning? How do you kind of set yourself up for your commercial client or personal work days?
Yeah, so I've fallen into quite a nice routine in sort of recent months. So like I get up at like just before 7 a.m. Let the dog out, wake up, have a coffee, and then sit down for like 7:30 at the latest, and then work straight through on normally client work up until 10:30, normally 10 a.m. And then funny enough, my dog then comes out of his bed from another room and sits by my desk waiting to go out for a walk. So then that gives me like I put aside like 2 hours to go out for like a nice long walk because he's high energy, gives me a chance to sort of get away from the screen and refresh myself. And that then tires him out. So then I've got the rest of the day to really plow through the rest of my work. So let's say I get back at like, I don't know, 12 o'clock, have lunch, and then straight into work from 12:30 through to 5, sometimes 4 p.m. Depends on the project. And depends on the country as well, where it's coming from. That's like a, a a standard day for commercial work. If I don't have commercial work, then I'll very much follow the same sort of theme, but instead of commercial work, I'll do personal work for the morning. So practice, just make a piece of type that moves, just see what happens on screen, see what I can come out with by midday or by like 10 a.m. And then, yeah, just kind of take it from there. But I mean, most of the time I am sort of invested in client work and I have projects to just be jumping on for. So yeah, it's a routine that's kind of working for me, and some days it has to change, and some days it stays the same. But yeah, I have a coffee, have a late breakfast, walk the dog, work here, work there, and then
Yeah.
yeah, try and rest in the evening, which I'm still trying to do.
Yeah, that's super balanced, super healthy. I mean, you're getting your, yeah, you're making it happen. That sounds lovely.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, definitely.
let's see, we had another one pop up down here. Um, maybe that was an older one. I don't know. That could be it. That could be it for the questions. Thank you everyone for submitting those. So here is another one. Yeah, this is from Cecilia Barada again. Have you ever worked or collaborated with a type foundry? I do type in motion for type together, and I inspire a lot in your work. Thank you. So Cecilia is at Type Together, which is a foundry. Matt, have you ever partnered with a foundry?
So I've not, kind of, in a way, because I've sort of Thai foundries have kind of seen my work on Instagram and online. Like sometimes I'm lucky enough to be sent fonts and typefaces and families, and sometimes these Instagram accounts are like, here's our latest font. You know, if you want to make something with it, that's cool. If you don't, it's fine, but here it is. So I'm quite fortunate to be given these different typefaces and fonts to have a play with, because these people know how to get me, because they know if they send me a nice typeface, I'm probably going to create a type animation for it and put it on Instagram and promote it for free.
Oh yeah.
But I like doing it and I enjoy doing it. It's good practice for me. And I'm invested in anyone who wants to make typography better. So if there's foundries out there that are making typefaces and making cool fonts, I'm more than happy to sort of jump on board with them and create something cool to show people how that font can be showcased. So yeah, it's like a weakness in me that people are exploiting, but it's a weakness that I quite like.
That's funny. They know what you like. You like those fonts.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
That's cool. Well, I'm not going to take up too much more of your time, Matt. It's been almost an hour, and I know it's late there, so I'm going to let you get back to it. But thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, Matt Voice. If you don't already follow Matt, please go ahead and do so on his Instagram. He makes fun, super poppy, kinetic type stuff. His animations can be found in the little GIFs that you can add to your own stories. Matt, anything you want to plug? Any holiday sales, or I don't know if you sell prints, or anything you want to add for your fans and followers?
Not really. No, not really. I don't sell anything, but I've got some cool projects coming out sometime next year. So just stand by. New work is coming, I promise. It's just I have to wait.
Yeah.
You have to wait.
Thank
That's
you.
it. That's
And
it.
our last conversation is probably of the year. So closing out this year. Excited for next year, and thank you again, Matt. It's so amazing having you on the team, on the roster over here at H Plus. And until I talk to you again in an hour, I will talk to you soon.
Nice one. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, guys. And oh, by the way, we're gonna save this on our conversations. We'll put it up on Vimeo, we'll put it on the blog, so you can always go back to it, reference it later, send it to your friends. It's there. But thank you again. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody. Bye.